Hi everyone. Thank you. We'll start our second panel discussion, and today we have awesome guests from Lucas, co-founder of Safe, and you have Sharon, CEO and co-founder of Headquarters, and you have Shota-san, CTO and co-founder of Bunzz. So the second session will be about tooling for on-chip real-world applications. So let's kind of go in and kind of start off with introduction. And is everyone here? Okay. All right. Cool. So please welcome our special guest with a big round of applause. Okay. So firstly, let's start from Lucas. Can you briefly introduce about yourself and your project?
Sure. Hey everyone, I'm Lucas, I'm from Safe, co-founder of Safe, mostly focusing on building the ecosystem around the Safe protocol. What we do at Safe is we want to make Web3 more secure, more usable, because I think that's still a huge challenge for many users coming into the space, that they have to take care of like key management, and the user experience of Web3 is still very complicated. And we built infrastructure with smart accounts to make it easier to onboard new users, but also create better like self-custodial systems for users that are secure enough that people feel confident that they can take ownership of their assets, their data, and yeah, we have like a wallet, Safe Wallet, that takes advantage of smart accounts that is mostly used by teams and organizations, because it allows you to have like multi-factor authentication, so multiple people that can coordinate together to use assets. And on the other side, we have Safe Core, which is our developer-focused product line, and that's really kind of the technologies behind Safe Wallet, but provided to others to use. So the idea of Safe Core is that other wallets can integrate with Safe Core and can create better experiences, better, smarter self-custodial systems. Yeah.
Cool, thank you. Next we have Sharon.
Okay, thanks everyone for coming. Thanks for inviting as well. So my name is Sharon, and I run this project called Headquarters, or our URL is probably easier to remember, it's hq.xyz. What we do is that there's a rise of a lot of, whether it's companies or DAOs, but not just DAOs, but a lot of companies actually are starting to adopt, new treasury wallet infra, I guess like Safe, for example. So all this, their revenue is on-chain, their expenses are also on-chain. So for us at Headquarters, we are aggregating on-chain wallet sources. So your usual suspects like non-custodial, but also actually centralized exchanges, together actually with your normal fiat source of accounts, so your banking and your FinTech accounts. So we aggregate all these sources of funds into one place, so that if you're a founder or a finance manager running a crypto project, every day you know how much funds you have, your ins and your outs. Yeah, so essentially we are building a one place for your treasury ops. And I think for us, why we started Headquarters is because my background comes from the payments world, and specifically actually payments for crypto. So fiat on-off ramp, even issuing a stable coin back in Singapore for the DeFi market. So that kind of gave me front row seats at how messy the back office is for a lot of these fast-growing crypto projects. And to me it was quite come the next bull run again, I do think that the whole industry will be a lot more professional, and I just wanted to be part of that. Yeah, so then we started Headquarters for that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Finally, Shota-san.
Thank you for having me. This is Shota from Bunzz. I'm co-founder and the CTO of Bunzz. So Bunzz, what we are doing is we are providing the smart contract platform, which is there are so many developers, I guess. So the developers use Docker Hub in the Web2 development. It's kind of like that we are creating a smart contract hub, like Docker Hub in their smart contract. So the developer can upload his smart contract to our platform, and the other developer can use some of the template in our smart contract platform. Then they can deploy the smart contract only by one clicking from the GUI, super easy. So, and we are also planning to provide a token rewarding system. Once some developer deploy a smart contract from our smart contract hub original developer can get rewarded by our original token. And we also planning to provide some of the supporting development suite. Yes, so the development, Web3 development is super important for real world improvement. So that's why we are focusing. Thank you.
Thank you. So I guess we go into our first question of what's the current demand and trends do you see from your project? So let's start from Shota-san from this side.
Yeah, as I said earlier, so development. So developers on their traditional Web3, traditional Web2 work, right? But almost the developers doesn't have the enough knowledge and experience in the smart contract development or Web3 development as well. So what we're trying to do is creating the bridge between the Web3 space and the Web2 space. The smart contract is one of the biggest barrier for Web2 developers to create a Web2 application or the centralized application. We want to support the developers to make the smart contract super easy, and maybe that we believe it makes the developer can create so many variety of the smart contract and the decentralized application. Actually, some of the apps already deployed by the traditional Web2 developers without coding the smart contract. Yeah, so this is the demands what we are facing. We interview so many developers that what you are facing, what is the trouble you are facing, and so many Web3 developers said learning the fundamental of the apps or the smart contract was big barrier, big jump. It requires a big jump. So that's why we are focusing that one, and maybe it will support to connect real world to Web3 worlds.
Thank you. So next up is Sharon.
Yeah, so my category is more on in treasury ops. So I think maybe the current trend is, I guess, two trends that are happening. So one, a lot of the regulators around the world are either getting very strict or very pro-crypto, both. But I think because of that, there is increasing, at least what I've observed, is there's an increasing need for, I won't say regulatory reporting, but just amongst the investors, they actually want some sort of financial reporting from their portfolio companies. So I see that happening a lot. So I think the need for better tracking and stuff like that is happening rather than just focusing on user growth. But the second trend I'm also noticing, it's definitely more and more on-chain activities are happening now that the first wave of whether it's DeFi summer or NFT summer has come. So there's a lot of various revenue models. So whether that now people have to track, so whether it's minting revenue, royalties, all this LP staking deals, I think they're all coming back again. Yeah, so again, teams, however you put the two together, it gets more and more complex now to track also. Yeah, it's not just simple USDC transfers that have to happen, but people have to track all their debt royalties now. So the third thing, however, I think back to yield management, it's now that I guess T-bills rates are pretty high, so there's definitely now a current demand for more and more of these traditional yield products to be now on-chain, so that it taps onto the Web3 market. There's so many teams that are just sitting on large treasuries. They do want to deploy to non-DeFi projects, but really just connecting T-bills on-chain. So there's a huge trend on that right now. So yeah, that's big. Thank you.
And finally, Lucas.
Yeah, I would say that the trends I'm seeing for next years will be mainly around the biggest issues that we have in Web3 right now. And I would say they're like scalability, utility, accessibility, and security. I usually tell this in like many interviews, but like this is really the four things we need to figure out. Scalability, that's like we want to get more and more users to Web3, and there's like a lot of projects that are working on this. There's like rollups, there's Avalanche subnets, there are like many kind of ways how we gonna approach this, but like I do see this being a bigger trend in the next years. Then utility, we need to figure out better ways, better reasons for people to come into the space, not just financial. Like finance is a big part of our lives, but it's not everything. Like we also need to provide like entertainment, communication, social applications, gaming. Like with NFTs, there's like a big space out there that's not necessarily, doesn't need to be financialized, but can still, through the technology, provide better utility to users because they can own their data, they can own their assets from a game, for example. So they see that as a bigger trend. And then accessibility, it doesn't help if something provides utility to someone, but it's super hard to use, it's technical, it's expensive, it's not accessible, it's not localized to different geographies. So I see also a trend of us making Web3 more accessible, easy to use, more specific to different user groups, to different geographies. And then finally, security. If something provides you utility and it's easy to use, but there's a risk for you to get hacked, to get phished, to do some malicious transactions, that doesn't solve the problem. That also doesn't make regulators happy because they see like how users are getting compromised and how DeFi protocols are getting hacked. So we need to also make a lot of progress in terms of security, better systems that prevent like users making mistakes, that prevent phishing attacks. And I think when we have these 4 things figured out, the future should be quite bright.
So you mentioned the 4 points, and when you're developing your project, right? What's the most, like, out of like the 4 or in general, what's the most like the challenges you face when you're actually developing your project?
Often. I mean, our project itself is more focused on probably the security and accessibility part. Like security as in smart accounts will enable things like additional transaction checks that go through every transactions you do with your account, or you might have some like whitelists or deny lists or like some kind of systems that you can attach to your account which make sure that there's nothing shady happening. You can do things like recovery systems where if you lose your keys to your account, you have some mechanism, whether that's via a trusted third party, whether that's some social recovery through friends or family, that you can actually gain back access to your account because like, there's so much assets that are just lost by people forgetting where they stored their seed phrase, etc. Like that's what we try to focus on. And the other one is accessibility, as in with smart accounts you can provide onboarding flows that feel like Web 2 but actually run on Web 3 rails. So where you go to an app, you log in with Google or email, which by integration with Web 3 auth or similar generates like an MPC wallet which connects to a smart account, and that like sounds complicated, but actually from a user perspective it's really just like log in with Google, you have a wallet under the hood, you don't even know it, and once you then accumulate more assets in the app can then say, okay, now maybe you should switch to a ledger wallet, you can reconfigure your smart account to be more secure. So that's what we're trying to figure out with Safe Core. How can we enable app developers, game developers to provide better and more accessible solutions?
Thank you. So I think when Lucas talked about like how do we get onboarding to be super smooth, although it's really complicated behind, I think Shannon, your product really kind of shines in this kind of way. Like, can you kind of briefly explain what's your challenge developing your project?
Yeah, thanks. So for us, the everyday user of our product is really actually sometimes not the founders of Web3 projects, it's actually their accountants, which work outside of crypto. So because of that, they're definitely very unfamiliar with the concept of even signing on, keeping your seed phrase safe and stuff, all this. They probably sometimes don't need to know as well, should not know. They're just there to work on the accounts of the teams. So we do have to focus a lot, right, on Google sign-in and what are different email sign-in that also automatically creates wallets and stuff for them. So we did all that exercise. Also, I think for us the challenge was the naming. So for us, when we say things like transaction hash, it's very common, we know what it means, but to an average finance manager, they don't really know what it means. And when they say a journal entry or a ledger, it's definitely very different from the type of ledgers we are dealing with. So I think for us, actually, honestly, being more in the crypto native space, having to adapt to the financial space, actually the challenge was more for us actually to make sure that the language that we use on our product speaks to the user, right? So that was a big challenge. Second one, however, I think it's privacy, because I think for us we deal with an application that stores basically has a context of all your finances, right? So the concept of privacy and how do we ensure that, whether it's at a web application layer, we have not gone down to all the ZK stuff yet, but at least at the web application layer, we have to really make sure we are secure and hence private. Yeah, that's essential for us as well. That's a big challenge. Yeah.
Finally, Shota.
Actually, there's a lot of challenges, but I also would say the security, that we are creating smart contracts platform, and the security is always matters. The uniqueness of the smart contract, especially on EVM, is if once you deploy it, basically you cannot change it again. If you find some issues, vulnerabilities, you cannot. It's really hard to upgrade it. So for providing that situation, to not provide that situation, we need to make the more secure auditing process for each uploading the smart contract. But what we want to try is creating a community-based smart contract platform. So we are struggling into how to create this community-based auditing system, actually. So yes, this is what we are trying now.
So briefly, I just come up with when you talk about privacy, right? What level of privacy do you think is enough, right? When we first start off, let's say the Bitcoin and white paper, it's like having the wallet address is different from the identity. I mean, that's the ETHGlobal style, but now we're talking about ZKs and actually trying to find the future of privacy. Is there in your guys' mind, do you know where is this privacy going? Do you think everything will be fully encrypted in ZK or something? Do you feel any just briefly?
Probably also depends a bit that financial things, you value privacy much more than something which we design is a public profile with associated attestations and stuff like that. I think most importantly, we need to figure out how to kind of make sure that you don't connect these things, that you somehow separate the things that are privacy focused and not privacy focused. I don't know where. I think it's mostly a technical challenge. The more privacy usually, the better. But how far can we go without giving up on composability of the ecosystem or scalability of the ecosystem? Because there might be some things that we could solve, but only with some significant drawbacks.
I think that probably the full migration of ZK, at least from our observation, is not quite demanded yet right now. Yeah, maybe at a power transfer level, maybe. But I think if you want to talk about having an overview, a real-time view of not just DAOs, but companies that adopt Web3 rails, do they want their entire treasury to be fully on-chain and yet assured to be private? I don't think they're ready for that leap yet. Yeah, because I think end of the day, companies, they still exist in a world whereby you can't expect full privacy because you're accountable to other people. So you have to release the numbers to other people and who you have paid for what purpose. So at least from what I've seen, there's no need for yet 100% yet for even financial data to be on ZK. I don't think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the security relates to it depends on the business and the situation. So, for example, if you are want to use some financial services, it must be supported high security. For example, the gaming or something, I don't care about so much security in that cases. Actually, so this is Bunzz is our second project. First project was blockchain certificate service before. On that case, in that project, we researched much about DID or verifiable credentials. So the interesting idea I found on that research was, in the DID, you can have this, not only one DID, you can have this so many DID, and you can have the different entity for each DID. So this DID for financial one, this DID for the gaming one. I think that this is the one of shape of the future of security.
Thank you. So yeah, thanks. It was just briefly, food for thought. I thought like privacy was, has to settle on some kind of compromises. But yeah, that was really nice discussion. So lastly, what kind of companies would you like to collaborate with? Especially, today we have a lot of companies coming into projects building real world applications. Do you have briefly? Do you have a vision and what do you want to share with this audience today? Let's go from Shota-san.
Okay, so we are providing a developer supporting too. So I like to connect with so many Web3 developers first, and Web2 developers as well. Web2 developers who are going to the Web3 spaces, and of course I like to connect with enterprises or some company business owner who want to go to the Web3 spaces. Maybe we can support in some cases. Thank you.
Yeah, I think for me at headquarters, Japan's been quite interesting this week. I realized that it's not just crypto native projects that are building on crypto, but it seems like a lot of businesses are also quite curious and have at least a Web3 department to see how to adopt whether it's NFTs or transactions on chain. So for me, I'm quite interested to chat with if you are someone who at the operational level or the finance level is part of a Web3 department of your company. I'll be happy to chat because we're quite curious to see how you actually run your operations behind the scenes. Yeah.
For us, it's we think that eventually all accounts in Web3 will be smart accounts. It's like the transition from like old Nokia phones to smartphones. We will go through the same transition now with these EOAs, private key accounts to smart accounts. So we would like to collaborate with anyone that uses accounts in Web3, and that ranges from social network projects, like Lens that create social accounts, to messaging platforms that do things in Web3, that create a messaging profile or a account where you can chat with others, to wallets that create more financially focused accounts, or even custodians that also have some level of accounts they give to the users, and with smart accounts can create interesting hybrid custody models that give the users actually some level of control over their accounts versus having trusting fully a centralized third party to custody your funds. So it's really an entire range. So anyone who does anything in Web3 basically would like to collaborate with.
Thank you. So that was the end of the questions. Now we have a Q&A session. So for anyone